I'm Joe Lample. When I created Growing a Greener World, I had one goal: to tell stories of everyday people, innovators, entrepreneurs, forward-thinking leaders who are all, in ways both big and small, dedicated to organic gardening and farming, lightening our footprint, conserving vital resources, protecting natural habitats, making a tangible difference for us all. They're real, they're passionate, they're all around us. They're the game changers who are literally growing a greener world and inspiring the rest of us to do the same. Growing a Greener World, it's more than a movement, it's our mission. Perhaps you can relate to seeing a house that you love so much that you said to yourself, someday, I'm gonna have a house like that. Well, for one young Freeville, New York couple, their dream home would be made of garbage. It started with a road trip to Taos, New Mexico to see real-life examples of such homes known as Earthships. The term refers to a type of house made of natural and recycled materials, such as earth-filled tires and throwaway bottles and cans. One of the biggest claims to fame is their reputation as off-the-grid homes. Well, after spending the night in an Earthship, they knew they wanted to build one of their own back in New York. To speed up the process and save money, romantic dates turned into dumpster diving for unique glass bottles. Cans were collected at parties, and clothes covered in muck were a common occurrence as they searched through piles of old tires looking for just the right sizes. Just 3 years later, Chad and Courtney DeVoe are living their dream in a house they built with love and lots of garbage.
We watched a documentary called Garbage Warrior several years ago, and that pretty much just sold it for us. It's a documentary about Michael Reynolds and his journey and vision with building Earthships over the past 40 years.
Michael Reynolds, an American architect based in New Mexico, is known for the design and construction of Earthships.
And we were inspired. We've always wanted to build something sustainable, but it seemed like the ultimate package. And we watched the movie, and afterwards, during the credits, Chad turned to me and said, "We are building this." And I said, "Okay, sure." And from there, we really just started looking into it and planning it. We just jumped on it.
So even before the video, though, we really wanted to do a straw bale house. There are a couple of those in the area. And I was looking online how to build a wall out of wine bottles. But then when we were watching the documentary, it kind of clicked. Like, you know, these bottle walls are actually from Earthships, and then that kind of was a springboard to researching more of these. And then we religiously watch videos online of, you know, of all the efforts that they've built around the world, and you know, the different types of the different options of Earthships and where they're built in the States. And we were pretty obsessed for about a year leading up to our build.
The DeVoes did just that. They called Earthship Biotexture and began their journey in constructing their own completely sustainable Earthship.
At the time, we lived in a very conventional ranch house that required $2,000 a winter in fuel, kerosene, a $40 electric bill, multiple trips to the grocery store on a weekly basis. And we looked at this Earthship concept as kind of a solution to those problems. We could grow our own food, we could generate our own electricity, and we sold our house. We found some land, and fortunately the lady that sold us the land let us live with her for a year while we were building the Earthship.
With Chad's experience in building homes, combined with Courtney's talent for design, their patience and dedication to their goal, along with the help of many hard-working volunteers, slowly but surely, their dream home became a reality. With the build complete, Chad and Courtney are reaping the rewards of sustainable design and construction.
To me, my favorite part about living here is the gray water system. Because of the greenhouse and the gray water, we can grow citrus trees year-round. I mean, we're growing limes and lemons here in upstate New York during the winter. I mean, that's pretty cool. We're also looking to start a family soon, and being able to raise our children in an Earthship, you know, where turning off the lights after they're done is normal. growing their own food, those skills, that consciousness of where the energy comes from, where food comes from, being embedded into the fabric of their lives, to me is also very exciting.
I would agree, the consciousness of everything, building this house ourselves, just knowing every ounce of sweat and labor and love and community that went into this house. And from there, knowing every inch of it in that way, but turning it around in knowing where all of our electricity comes from, where all of our water comes from, the food that we grow here and eat here, where that comes from, and knowing that before I vacuum, I need to make sure that I'm utilizing the sun or maybe someday wind energy. It's so neat to be conscious of, like Chad said, everything that we do. And Earthship Biotexture has said this: you take care of the house and the house takes care of you. It's like a living, breathing part of us now.
Chad, I'm sure it comes as no surprise to you that some people don't consider the Earthship to be the prettiest house on the block.
Right. The exterior aspects of an Earthship definitely aren't the selling points, but it's designed that way to make use of what nature provides. When Michael Reynolds designed these houses, he looked at, where is sunlight at what points of the year? How can I collect the most amount of rainwater? What direction should they be oriented? So he kind of took all these factors into consideration, and the Earthship basically designed itself when he collected all that data and finally came up with a game plan.
For example, everyone I've ever seen has a south-facing wall full of glass, and that's to take advantage of the passive solar heating, right?
Right, yeah. In the northern hemisphere, all Earthships face south. All of the glass is roughly at a 70-degree angle. And the reason for that is because in the wintertime, when the sun is really low, the sun can penetrate in basically a straight shot right to the back tire wall. And then you have all that thermal mass inside the granite floors, the concrete walls, the tire wall. That soaks up the heat in the wintertime. And then at nighttime, that heat radiates back out into the living space.
Right. So the ability for the sun to get to that back wall explains why you always see these houses as being so narrow as well.
Right, exactly. You can't have them too deep or it just wouldn't work.
Okay.
Okay, and then also in the summertime, when the sun is very high and you don't want sun in the house, the angle of the glass makes it so that the sun only goes about 3 feet inside.
Very smart. So what this house may lack in aesthetics, it makes up for in efficiency, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, definitely. And interior design, too.
Okay, good. Well, I happen to like it, just for the record.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm so jealous of this long, sunny room in your house. I want
Oh,
one of these.
Yeah.
Speaking of rooms, though, we need to talk about the elephant in it. And I'm speaking of these tires on the wall and the foundation. Now, that's common with an Earthship. What's up with that?
Yes, tires are one of the main components of an Earthship. They are the foundation. We ram them full of dirt and they become these 400-pound rubber bricks, and they hold temperature and they are completely strong, and
They're not going anywhere.
oh no, yeah. They're bulging with just mass, with earth.
So you don't just stack them up. You have to pack them with the soil because that helps absorb the heat and release it as well.
Yes, Chad and I pounded, we call it pounding, about 800 tires in this house. You fill it with just dirt that was on site, and until it's this bulging mass and we can't move it, we stack them right where they need to be in place and tear it back and berm it in, and that's our back wall.
And another common denominator of Earthships, glass bottles and cans. Talk to me about that.
Yes, so we use cans to take up space in a cement wall. So again, rock, tile, cement holds temperature, and instead of pouring a 6-inch wall of cement, we use cans as little bricks, and they get the cans off the streets. They're garbage, to keep them out of the landfill, and in some places they don't even use them for a deposit. And then the bottles are actually more of like an aesthetic part of taking up space in a wall. We butt 2 bottoms together, just tape them and place them into a wall, except with the cans we would cover them up, but the bottles we covered with cement flush to the bottom.
Yeah.
So the light shines through, whether it's a light in the house or sunlight coming through, they glow or they shine, and they make this beautiful, almost stained glass jewel in the house.
Every day and every hour of the day is probably different as you walk through the house with these.
Yeah, there are some bottles that we find a different part of the year where the sunlight is shining through them where they hadn't before, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. With no well to provide their water, Chad and Courtney collect it from their lead-free metal roof. And a large gutter feeds it into 2 intakes, and those intakes direct that water into 4 cisterns or storage tanks, which are 1,700 gallons each. Gravity then feeds water into the house, so even without electricity, they still get water. From there, a DC pump pushes it through 2 particle filters. That water supplies the shower, laundry, and sinks. The water designated for drinking, though, goes through 2 more filters before it gets to the sinks. That's the first use. From there, water flows into the drains, to the front gray water planter cell where it's used to irrigate all the produce and flowers in a 90-foot pit. When water gets to the end of that pit, it's filtered and pumped to the toilets. So by that point, all the water has been used 3 times. But once the water is used in the toilets or in the kitchen sink, it's considered black water and goes to a conventional septic system. One of my favorite features about this house is how it's cooled. Now this is the north side of the house, and it's completely bermed up all the way to the roof line. And see these guys right here? These are intake tubes for fresh air. Now these are galvanized metal tubes that go down into the ground about 10 feet, and then they elbow towards the house another 40 feet. But all the temperature around those tubes down there, about 55 degrees constant. Now the tubes terminate inside the house as vents. And when it gets really hot, that greenhouse, well, they have vents too, and they're opened up and the hot air rushes out. But through convection, that cool air in the tubes, that comes into the house is free natural air conditioning. Not bad. Every step along the way of building this Earthship was an amazing process. If you'd like to see an expanded video on how it all came together, it's on our website at growingagreenerworld.com under the show notes for this episode. Now, as much as I'd like free air conditioning, it's not going to happen. My home is more typical of the type of energy bills most of us are faced with. Yet we can all strive to reduce our consumption. So when my 20-year-old HVAC system finally gave out recently, I had some important decisions to make. First, I did my homework and talked to a number of professionals about the options. I wanted to know that when I finally decided on a plan, I had the most cost and energy efficient solution available for my budget. When we first met, I really liked the analogy that you shared with me when I just wanted to fix my system. You really kind of helped me see the light there.
Throwing good money after bad. If you've got a system that's 15, 20 years old, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to spend a couple $100 patching it up just to get by. Even when it was brand new, it still isn't as energy efficient as the minimum of today's equipment. So, you know, replacing it just makes sense.
And it also makes sense to conduct a certified energy audit to find out where the inefficient places in your home are. Even the most advanced systems can't compensate for poor insulation. The audit cost about $500, but well worth it if you follow through on the simple repairs. So in spite of whatever system we have here, one of the biggest things we need to pay attention to is how the air flows into the house. And when you have these louvered doors and then an open area to the crawl space, it's just like leaving the door wide open, right?
Exactly. It doesn't matter how good your heating and cooling system is. If you have these louvered doors that are open to this room, which is open to the crawl space, and then the crawl space is open to the outside air.
So now the options are just to replace these doors with solid doors and make sure that you seal the seams. But the other thing we can do, and maybe a cheaper option, is to get some of that insulated foam and attach it to the back, which would basically serve the same purpose and seal off the airflow.
Exactly. You could get some foam backing, trim it to fit the door, put it around the door, put some weather stripping around the door seam as well.
All right, excellent suggestion. Once Brent had a thorough understanding of our needs and objectives, we were able to narrow down the options to the most appropriate choices. The time invested in the fact-finding makes this part of the process much easier.
The system that we are going to be putting into your home has a variable speed compressor, which means it's capable of only providing as much heating or cooling as is necessary. So this is good in respect to you only get as much heating as you need in the fall when you have a mild day, or maximum heating capacity on a cold winter day, and vice versa. You know, just a little bit of cooling in the spring and a lot in the summer.
When the big day finally arrived, so did the cavalry. Part of me was nervous for what was about to happen, yet honestly, I was excited to know that the changes we were making were going to make a big difference in reducing our energy consumption on the biggest energy user in the house. Out with the old and in with the new certainly applied in this case to lighten our energy footprint while meeting the objectives of all of my family members. All right, so we're only a couple hours into the process, so before any installation can take place, you have the de-installation. So there's a lot of stuff here already. In fact, it's a big mess, but that's just the way it's going to be for the next few weeks or so. But what's nice about this is they're going to go through all of this back at the shop and then separate it to what can be recycled, like all of this metal, and then they'll disassemble and take the copper out of it and recycle that. So very little of what you see here will actually end up in the landfill, and most of it will get repurposed or recycled. So we're off to a good start with that. Once all the old equipment was out, it was time to install the updated system, starting with the main heat pump. One unit is replacing the 2 previous pumps while serving the entire house with much greater efficiency. But it's not just about the outside unit. Making sure all the ductwork inside is properly routed and sealed is another way to maximize energy savings. In my case, a lot of the conditioned air was leaking through poor seals in the ductwork. Now your guys are not wasting any time, because in a matter of hours we already have part of the system installed, and that's this bad boy right here. What exactly does this do?
This is the heat pump, Joe. This is one of 3 major components of your heating and cooling system. You have what is referred to as a hybrid system, or some folks will refer to it as dual fuel. That particular type of system uses the heat pump as its primary source of heat, and then on days where we get into extremely cold temperatures, you have your gas furnace as a means of supplementary heat or backup.
Well, this turned out to be a pretty big project, but in the course of a couple of days and some very competent installers, I have a system that's neat and tidy, and the louvered doors are all sealed off from top to bottom. Same thing with the crawl space, and it finally feels really good in here again. Now, a lot of that has to do with the state-of-the-art controller. So Brent, this is the controller, and it's much different than the old thermostat with the dial on it, right?
Control would be spot on. Thermostat is you know, kind of a thing of the past now. It's capable of doing so much more than just turning your heating and cooling on and off or adjusting the temperature. It's Wi-Fi enabled, which means that you can remotely access it. You can fully customize the comfort in your home by adjusting profiles for the fan, the humidity in both cooling and heating modes to each zone in the house, and be done with it.
Yep, very efficient, very user-friendly.
Very intuitive.
And accessible from anywhere I am.
That's correct.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Whether you're living off the grid now or just trying to live a little greener while saving some money, there are plenty of things that you can do outside and inside the house that really add up. And if you'd like to learn more about Earthships or some of the things that I'm doing in my home to live more sustainably, well, all that information is on our website under the show notes for this episode. And the website address, it's the same as our name. It's growingagreenerworld.com. I'm Joe Lample. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you back here next time for more Growing a Greener World. Eye protection. It's critical that you protect your eyes, of course. So, you know, now I know they make safety goggles, but these are all-purpose goggles, and I don't think you can ever be too cautious. So let's go double eye protection, because, you know, you only have 2 eyes, right? Gosh, you know, it gets pretty loud out here, all that stuff going on right there. So you need ear protection. Right, so now I think that's on. And with all the falling debris, now I don't have an official hard hat, but my daughter is into horses,